So the report looks a little different today, but that's because I've um, where they've laid bills on the table to take up the other bill. I just say that on here and take off the link, the hyperlink, because that bill's no longer, it's probably been changed and it's no longer relevant. So we'll start with the first one. This construction defect claims is still alive. I would say it's on life support. It has been returned to the Senate from the House. It's actually not nearly as bad now as it was before. The current language would reduce the 10-year statute of repose to 7 for latent defects. The statute of repose would remain at 10 years if there's fraudulent concealment. You remember on the House bill before, it had gone to 15 years. On the Senate bill, it was open-ended, so it would just be the current 10 years if fraudulent concealment could be proven. They got some language in there about when the statute of repose actually begins, being actual possession by the owner. And it would repeal Chapter 558, but the part that we wanted to stay in the statutes, 558.0035, would move to Chapter 768.401. So, if it passes, it's a little bit helpful on the statute of repose for those that have to deal in that arena. But everything else is kind of status quo. They laid the House bill on the table, so that's no longer relevant. And this question came up during Jeff's presentation a little bit ago. What happens when you go on their websites and you see laid on the table? It's the way they get two bills down to one. Both chambers have a bill as we're going through the process, and then once they get to the floor, for instance, if the Senate, in this case, passes their bill first and they send it to the House, the House looks at it, and whether it's identical and they're just going to go ahead and pass it, or if they're going to change it or whatever, they will normally just lay their bill on the table, take up the bill from the other chamber, do what they want with it. And, if it's identical and they want to pass it, they can just take the bill up and pass it, and it goes to the governor. Or, they can amend it and put stuff on or put stuff off and send it back, the other way. So that's what if you hear us talking about bouncing bills, that's what they're doing. Is a bill comes over from the Senate to the House changes it somehow, they have to send it back to the Senate. But one of the two bills, usually the one that gets there first, is the one they go with, and they lay the other one on the table. So I'll go straight to an example of where they don't do that. So Senate Bill 398, the Senate president has announced that this bill is no longer under consideration, and it's because of what happened in the House. Neither of these bills were laid on the table or any of that kind of stuff. The president just got upset and just pulled it from consideration, and that is because if you look at the companion bill, House Bill 157, it's in messages to the Senate, but it's got some other language in it that's not in the Senate bill. The kicker being the reestablishment of the Greater Miami Expressway Agency. The Senate sponsor of the bill, Senator Hooper, said, he remembered that fight a few years ago and he didn't want to get into it again. So just, stuff it. And so that bill's dead. That's the one that did the progressive design build for FDOT, which we wanted that. But I knew when I saw I think I had copied you on when I saw that amendment language about, Miami Expressway, I was like, oh no. And I sent it down there to you guys, what's going on with this? And the Senate just isn't interested in getting back into that issue again. So for all intents and purposes, they haven't, even though the president has said it's no longer under consideration, 99% sure it's dead. But it's still there. I mean, somebody could strike a deal. They could pop it right back up and move with it. So I've left it on the report here. The structural engineers have gotten their recognition program, which they didn't want. The Senate, had the actual license bill that would have created the professional structural engineer license. The House a few weeks ago had changed it to this recognition program, which really doesn't do anything. And they passed it, sent it over to the Senate, and the Senate passed it. So it's kind of a token for their 4 or 5 years of hard work to try to get that passed. But I think, depending on what happens, and I'm about to go into the big one, depending on what happens, that might be an issue we need to address later on anyway, because one of the problems we've had with the Surfside bill, or the mandatory inspection bills, whatever you want to call them, is this idea that, we don't have structural engineer. There's no definition in the statute. We're not even sure how many structural engineers there are practicing in Florida. So it made some of the things really hard. But where we're at on that is that bill, the Miami Herald is reporting this morning that bill is dead. The Senate yesterday took it up. They put a strike all amendment on it. They took off all the stuff related to the condo associations and reserve studies and all of that. And they basically just left it as, the very close to the recommendations that we had made. The problem is the Senate president doesn't want that condo association stuff on there. The House does want it on there. And they don't want to accept the bill without it being on there, and the Senate won't accept the bill with it being on there. So we're stuck on the last day of session, and one of the members of leadership in the House told the Miami Herald yesterday that the bill was dead. We have not heard that the bill is dead, so we continue to move forward as if it isn't. We're reaching out to House leadership. We're trying to explain to them that, look, at least getting the requirements and the structure for the inspections is a good thing to pass. It's a good place to start, because in reality, the first inspections don't have to be done until the end of 2024. There's language in the bill that says for buildings over 30 years old, they have to have their first inspection done by 2024, the end of 2024. So they basically have 3 years. So it doesn't really hurt anything. It's not like we're telling people you got to right away start inspecting your buildings, but it gets it on the book, so to speak. That's the angle we're taking. I don't know if it'll work or not. I would say, the funny thing is I woke up this morning and my local television station was saying there's one more vote to go on the condominium bill, blah, 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 from Surfside. And we had just been told by the Miami Herald last night that she had gotten word that it was dead. So, we'll keep pushing until they tell us it's dead. It's still there. It's in messages to the House. They can take it up if they want and pass it. And again, that would implement, our recommendations. But if the House, shuts it down and just says we're not going to accept it without the requirements on the condo associations, then there's nothing we can do. We've done our part. I mean, our stuff is there. It would be a statewide program. It would have a phase 1 and phase 2 inspection. Building officials would be responsible to make sure that the repairs are made, and it would go to the Florida Building Commission for them to handle it. So we've done our part, and we're watching the others argue, and that's just we kind of knew that all of those groups were going to get involved, because it all kind of has to go together and it has to work together, and it just shows the condo associations have a lot of power. And I told somebody yesterday, I will not say this to the press. We're going to try to figure out exactly what our response will be if the bill eventually does fail, but I won't say this, but if they spend as much money on fixing their condos as they did on buying off politicians, they wouldn't be in bad shape. A couple of others, let me go back and just hit these real quick, and if anybody has any questions. Sandy, the bills 985 and 974 that deal with sovereign immunity, and raise the limits from 200 per person, 300 per incident, 400 per person, 600 per incident. Those are dead. One of them never ever made it out of the appropriations committee, and the second one's just sitting on the second reading calendar, and which means it hasn't been put on special order. This being the last day, it's not going to make it. So those are dead. And then do I have JW on the phone? No, JW had raised.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, the language that was in the Senate bill pertaining to a report from FDOT this year on how they're going to save money and, possibly give out, some bonuses, so to speak. That did not make the final cut in the budget.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, I don't. Hurtado wasn't happy with that anyway, right?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't think FDA.
They didn't feel real strongly about it, but it's just easier if it's not there.
I don't think they wanted to do another report that just basically says the same thing the report they just sent them does. But anyway, I had Derek check that just about an hour ago, and it did not make the final cut in the budget, so that's gone as well. So it's kind of a bloodbath. Some good, some bad. We didn't really want the construction defect claims because it was just kind of all over the place, although it's wound up in a decent spot. We wanted the transportation project, but the Senate president isn't going to let that go. And, the Surfside stuff is on life support today. So we're trying to resuscitate it, but, we'll do what we can today and just, see if there's anything we can do. But, at this point, it doesn't look very good. Which is very disappointing. I know there was a lot of work put into that from our members of other organizations. Obviously, us up here, we've spent a lot of time on that bill this session. It's ridiculous. With Tampa Bay Times has an op-ed, or they did an editorial. The editorial board, calling for passage of this bill. I mean, it's all over the place. Pass this bill. Every single committee stop. Everybody was, what a wonderful bill this is. What a wonderful bill this is, and then get down to the end and something silly, winds up possibly taking it down. So I'm going to stay positive. John says he has not heard that it's dead, and he continues to work on it. And so not to put the weight on him, but I've got a lot of faith in John, and we'll see how things come out later today. John, if you or Derek's on there, feel free to weigh in.
Hey, Alan, this is Derek. Everything you're reporting is accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, the clock is running. The Senate president made it known they're trying to be done in the Senate by lunchtime.
Yeah, they have. I looked at their schedule. They don't have much on there at all.
They do not at all. They're probably going to, at some point, he said they're going to probably enter into debate on the budget, so that when they come back on Monday, which will be Monday around noon, they'll probably be in and out in an hour on the Senate side. So they're going to move pretty fast this morning in the Senate.
Yeah. Well, we're not really waiting for them to do anything in the Senate.
It's very true.
The construction defects bill is there, but we're not really, if it passes, that's okay. But, we're not doing anything to try to get it over the finish line. So that we're waiting on is to see if the House will take up the Surfside bill. But yeah, I looked at the Senate schedule. It's really, really light. And so that everybody knows, just outside of all of this, they did not make it on the budget. They had to have the budget done by Tuesday night to lay it on the table, because it's got a 3-day cooling off period in order to vote on it by Friday or by today. They were a day late, so as Derek says, they'll probably do some debate on, ask questions about it today, but they're coming back Monday. They're just extending session. They're not going to come back in a special session. They're just extending so they can come back Monday and pass the budget. Which in my mind says whatever's in the budget is in the budget, and whatever isn't, because if they change it, that 3-day clock starts again. But anyway, any questions from anybody? It certainly wanted this session to end up, but unscathed is, I think, how we're going to wind up this time. I was, I thought all along we would get that Surfside bill, and we're still not dead. I still won't call it dead, but miraculous things can happen on a Friday in the Florida legislature.
Alan, the only thing I'd like to add is in that budget is a substantial pay increase for the FDOT secretary, which is a little late in the game, but at least they're moving that direction in terms of Secretary Tebow.
Yeah, they still taking applications? I'm teasing.
Actually, today's the last day.
Oh, okay. Hey, Derek, call over to the governor's office and see if that job's still open. They're paying real money now. No, but so anyway, we'll see how today turns out. And one more time, does anybody have any questions? If not, I'll let y'all get back to work, and we'll what are you shaking your head for, Shaw?
I don't know. It's one of these days. Such a good bill, and they just can fuck things up so badly. Sorry. Anyway, moving on.
All right, Sir Shaw, that's fine.
You know,
It is what it is.
I still can't wrap my head around the fact that they're not going to do something, because they're going to take a beating back home. You know, because we did all of that stuff. We did the Mason-Dixon poll. It's 86% favorable. You know, the public wants it. It just comes across as you just don't care. But
My issue is we're going to end up with another collapse, something like that, in a couple of years, and it's going to be a major issue at that point, and everybody's going to get blamed for it, and we're going to be part of the blame.
The reality is every municipality is going to do its own thing, and it's going to be a major mess and a big hodgepodge, and nobody's going to know what happens from one jurisdiction to the next.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you're correct.
Because it's already happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's another reason to come back on it, but like they did with the building code years ago. But yeah, Edie's job today is to keep me from saying something, to the effect that it's
They're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't, we did what we could do, and if this happens again, we know society knows who to blame.
Yeah,
and just for the record, I did. Just for the record,
the blood is
complaining last night. I complained last night to Alan so I could get it out of my system and get my PR head on for today.
Yeah.
All right.
It's amazing.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks,
We did
everybody.
what we could. Thank you, everyone.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, we will do this
Thank you.
just to clean this up.
Mhm.
What happens today, but so we will do it again next week.
All right. Thank you. That would be great.
All right.
Thank you.
And if anything happens, let us know, please.
Okay, we will.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
Alan. Thank you.
Bye, Tracy. Thank you.